Hey guys, this is the Ecron Writer here. Welcome you to another OBS Studios project. This happens to be another session from Cowboy Bebop as well as Mega Man X. This would actually be my last project before I go on hiatus. So this is A Trip in Paradise, a one-shot I came up with around the same time I came up with Recessional of the Red Dragons. Unfortunately, since I wasn't able to get the former story done, I wasn't able to write about the latter. However, I still had those ideas in my noodle, and I'm so glad to finally bring it out there. So let's get this started. Alright, A Trip in Paradise. After 5 years in hiatus, much like the epic Recessional of the Red Dragons, it has come into fruition. For some odd reason, this crazy story actually came to me when I saw the Simpsons episode The Joy of the Sect. I guess the Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle count as well, even though that was pretty lame. So I decided to make this as one of the bounty hunting misadventures for the new Bebop crew. Enjoy! It all started inside the renovated convenience store of what used to be Annie's devastated outlet. It's been nearly 6 weeks since the Red Dragons War ended in Mars, and Spike and Trudy have never been as content, or rather bored out of their minds. Spike was just lazing around and snoring loudly upon the couch, while Trudy peeked out of the closed blinds from a nearby window using a pair of binoculars. The streets were vacant with only a small handful of patrons walking around, and the weather was overcast with a promise of light rain, or rather dust. Rumor has it there'd be an oncoming dust storm in the next few days, probably one of the most tumultuous yet. As a Martian, Spike knew firsthand on preparing for a huge dust storm, and preparations indeed must be made. Julia was currently shopping for food and supplies and ammo for the rough weather ahead. Still, the entire week lacked plenty of action. There hadn't been a new bounty hunting mission since. Needless to say, Trudy was growing more restless and anxious as she missed being aboard the Bebop, tracking down any leads, and enduring some unfortunate and sometimes wild events. Just then the televid switched onto a familiar program accompanied by a rapid-playing banjo. Howdy, amigos, and welcome to another new and pruned segment of Big Shot. That brought out Trudy from her slump, and she rushed over to Spike. She tugged at his arm, trying to wake him. Hey, Spike! Spike, wake up! It's Big Shot! We have another bounty head! It was thanks to a generous donation provided by the Bebop team from the hefty amounts of cash they received from the war effort. About 200,000 woolongs. Got both Punch and Judy back on the air. It was greatly needed since they used the program as a source for searching for a huge profit. What, His eyes were still crossed as he wiped the sand out of them. It's Big Shot! We gotta see what our new bounty is! She surely didn't want her mentor to miss this, though it was hard on writing down the intel since the program was fast-paced. Good thing Zero never missed a thing. Today we had just found 2 abnormal people located somewhere outside of Tharsis. Well, let me try again. Today we had just found 2 abnormal people located somewhere outside of Tharsis. That's right, Trudy. 2 portraits appeared on the screen, 1 male and 1 female. Each of their names and personal info were listed below them. Unfortunately, Trudy was unable to keep up. They belong to some underground occult known as the Drifters. Their mission is to send us to a distant fake planet called Empyrea. And with this oncoming dust storm, it couldn't possibly come at a better time. For just 50,000 woolongs each, catch these criminals and rally them to justice. 30,000 woolongs? Who could resist? Spike said while the cowboys kept rambling. Then suddenly their demeanors have changed somewhat. It was as though they seemed to be dazed but deliriously happy. Ah, yes, the master should take care of us, wouldn't he, Judy? He would indeed, Punch. With the master's support. We wouldn't have to stress over our job and scrounge for bounties anymore, and we can live in harmony together. Huh? That's weird. Spike was clueless by their sudden awkward reaction. Never seen him act like this. Neither have I. As the two wranglers went on about gathering all the inhabitants of Tharsis and convincing them to join the Drifters, Spike switched off the TV and remained unaffected. Well, I am going to receive the 30,000 wulongs. I don't care if some fantastical occult. We're bounty hunters. That's what we do, goddammit. His determination always seems to rub off on her. She stood up and spoke proudly. I'm with you, Spike. 30,000 wulongs should handle us for a while. How bad can it be to earn some more dough? Besides, we need it to prepare ourselves for that dust storm. Jingles from overhead bells were heard as Julia stepped in. She was holding an enormous bag of goods. Ah, Julia! Good news! We just received another opportunity for an incredible bounty hunt. 30,000 wulongs. That's 15,000 wulongs each for the two bounty heads, he corrected. But something seems rather odd with those delirious cowboys. You noticed? She mentioned before she gave Spike a peck on the cheek. She put down the large bag on the counter. I noticed that the shops located around Tharsis were vacant, both the lots and the interiors. Very few people remained. I was lucky I still had some service when I got to the checkout. It's almost as though they're not taking the storm very seriously. It must have something to do with that strange case involving a planet called Empyrea, and the master bringing them there. That reminds me, I saw two people while I was heading out. They were handing out brochures like this one. She pulled it out her pocket. On the pamphlet was a man that had his arms spread out wearing a long white robe. The sunlight behind him was making the figure obscure in the sky, blue background. Header was in bullpen. This was the footer, the drifters, enlightenment waits you. It's very strange. I've seen some religious groups before, but nothing as so unusual as this. I'm not a religious follower either. Have we ever dealt with any cults like this? Well, I guess I do recall the time we dealt with that one occult. The one that had this virtual game and Faye was Dr. Londus's #1 target. I would also count those ex-crazy environmentalists. Remember Vincent? She nodded her head real fast. It was too bad that Julia never met up with Spike at that time, though he did generalize her to Lieutenant Electra briefly. I think we should look at that supermarket again. They may still be there. They decided unanimously to arrive at the designated location together and to try not to let the occultists wait and distract them on their duties. They were aware of Trudy's short attention span, so they needed to keep a keen eye on her in case she'd slip away, with two anchors securing a buoy prone to going astray. A few weeks back, Spike's friend Doohan had modified Julia's destroyed Ferrari and converted the remaining parts into her own zipcraft, the Hearthstone. It's built much like the Swordfish, too, but it wasn't made from a monoracer. Lacks speed, though it was built with light lasers and bullets, possesses a mobile cockpit, and performs with excellent agility. It looks similar, too, with its sleek model and folding wingspan. They were both stationed on top of their apartment. Each of the wings opened with Spike's being the first. He recommended Trudy to ride shotgun with Julia, and she followed the Swordfish closely. At the vacant massive parking lot, the pilots docked their ships and hooked them up to a pair of fuselage tanks. They soon came across some occult members at the rear of the supermarket. The gang met up with a trio wearing the same white robes that Julia saw in the brochure. Looks like they're hunting for some weak cattle. Stay alert! Spike, Julia, and Trudy, I presume. Looks like you bounty hunters could use a vacation, getting all so weary from your long travels and strenuous work. He eyed her and Trudy as well as the others. How about it, ladies? Imagine a lifetime of peace and serenity, never worrying about money nor violence. I'm certain that is what you both want, for people as frail as you. Get your hands off her! Julia, don't listen to him! You two will be together forever, not worrying about being hunted by crime organizations or scoundrels. You will have no need to be scared anymore, living in peaceful bliss, and freedom is won. I... She seemed to be swept by his words, while Trudy remained silent. They never thought on how the cult knew so much about them. But with Spike, on the other hand, run! He charged toward him with a punch, and the rest of the group gained on him. It was little to no problem for the hothead as he bashed each hypnotist to the ground. Seeing his amazing fighting skills, the couple tried to scamper away, but someone else had them cornered. The red robot ambushed them as he leapt down at the other side of the brawl, but only Spike noticed. Oh, great! Though the Maverick Hunter wasted no time to finish them off, rendering them half to death like all the others. By the time the coast was clear, Spike went to Julia, desperate to snap her out of that enticing flunk. He laid his hands on her shoulders, looking at her squarely in the face. Julia! Julia! Spike! Thought I'd lost you there for a minute. Oh, Spike! Never want to leave you. Never again. We can go wherever you want to go. Sounds right to me. Zero! Hey, look what the cat dragged in. Zero! Never thought I'd see you here. I thought you'd be with Jet at headquarters. I would, but there was an unexpected turn of events. They listened as he explained that earlier today Jet went missing. He walked out without a trace while he was still in slumber inside his own capsule that was transported from Able City. He tried calling him, but the transmission was always lost. Even Jet's hammerhead was gone. He never even posted a note nor used any form of contact. Zero also tried to message Faye, but even she was unavailable. He was going to call Spike, Julia, and Trudy until he heard the Big Shot bulletin. He downloaded the intel from it, and upon Julia's request, he pressed on his nose, and a small sheet along with mugshots from his helmet provided everything they needed. The data read as follows on each of the blank black criminal boards. Takeshi Lucero Crowley, 37, 57 Wulongs, Venus. He appeared to be nearly 6 feet tall, blah blah blah. Thought he could belong to the Yakuza. There was a petite female to his right. She was known as Lynn Targoon's Dogma, 37, 57 Wulongs from Venus. She had this, she had that. She also smiled wildly. Her eyes sparkled in an evil sneer. To Trudy, she didn't think she looked like her age, almost as if she was Takashi's playgirl. So these are our bait. Yes, I'm surprised they're even the zealous types. Looks can always be deceiving. Julia said she found some fanatics here. I think we should keep looking. Good thing I saw your zip crafts here while I was flying overhead. Let's kick it. They decided to search the place. Zero and Spike investigated the interior, while Julia and Trudy searched the exterior. Guys trekked through every aisle, looking for some kind of subliminal message for the unsuspecting public. In his peripheral vision, Spike saw glimmering white light through 2 massive doors leading to a back room for shop employees. He looked through the small windows and noticed the spacious room was crowded with rows of folding chairs. He signaled Zero to come over, and the men found an overhead presenting planet Empyrea with the bot analyzing the footage. An overhead? That's just so archaic. They tried to leave from their seats, thinking the spectators were irritated by the nonsensical rubbish being fed to their heads, though the presentation kept stopping abruptly as a beam of light from the ceiling shined on whomever was uncomfortable. Male voice always convinced them to remain in the seats till the overhead ended. Several minutes had passed. Spike then rolled his eyes and shook his head. Screw this. You got the info, Zero? Right here, Spike. Tapped his noodle, being his helmet. Come on, we should get to the others before we lose our minds. I can sometimes understand why people say that TV can rot your brain. Julia and Truda wound up near a food stand of sorts, serving boys bowls of gruel to patrons who were willing to buy those suspicious free samples. Before they knew it, their stomachs began to rumble. The women saw the customers sit at wooden benches, and they realized the two bounty heads standing behind them. Julia! The zealots are here! She pointed toward the location. The lot had different sections. One was structured in a circle, and they made it out as the ring of judgment, designed to destroy any self-esteem from empty minds and stomachs. Another portion was led by chance, supporting the master and encouraging people to lose their wills. They noticed it was led by Lynn herself, while Takashi was just roaming for some weak cattle. Spike's warning rang in Julia's ears. Trudy! Why don't you get one of those bowls so Zero can analyze it? Julia made a tight grip. Whatever you do, don't eat it, as this would make you one of those brainless followers. Never let your guard down. She nodded and went to the following cue. An early happy-go-lucky man greeted her. She paused and accepted the master's offering. She brought it with her as she walked back to Julia, but she was halted by Takeshi. Hold it right there. You're not leaving without the master's supplement. He led her to one of the rear wooden tables while Julia stood and gave her a serious glance. The first location was indeed the rows of tables where the rest of the followers ate like pigs. Literally. This actually made her feel grossed out, almost as if she was seeing the brothers' grunts around her. Luckily, the disgusting displays were cut short as Takeshi and Len announced from their podium. Attention, everyone! Let us rejoice this glorious day the Master has provided before us. Then she and her associate led a repetitive chant to which Trudy became more annoyed. Why am I doing this? The one woman here isn't budging. You, Trudy! I'm certain your friends are waiting for you on planet Empyrea. They are with the Master as we speak. In fact, we already have two of them here now. From behind a distant tall sediment, Julia gasped and theorized they were... Can't be! Trudy was a bit intimidated by the thought. How could Spike and Zero fall for them so easily? Then she heard Len and Takeshi encouraging the brainwashed followers. They tried to demoralize her as they chanted about the Bebop. Trudy became outraged. No! How do you know about the Bebop? It was destroyed in the war and... She lost her train of thought. She saw two other bounty hunters walk up to them. Jet? Faye? They can't be! It is us, Trudy. Yes, we have been waiting for you to come with us. She never saw him so easygoing and carefree like this. He was always the uptight type. This was incredibly unusual to her. What's the matter? Aren't you bringing Spike, Julie, and Zero with us? We would love their company. The Master would be pleased once he unites all us bounty hunters in his bosom. Faye? Jet? She was terrified. Let's go! The cowgirl immediately gathered the gruel as she followed her out. Sure enough, the whole unit of fanatics were on their tail. Spike and Zero walked out onto the pavement. They became a bit anxious as they saw the surveillance peeking over them, wondering if those drifters could spot them on a moment's notice. Spike couldn't wait to rip the bounty heads a brand new one. This worried Zero a little as he hasn't really lost his desire to fight. Perhaps a spark from Vicious's blood. Spike! Zero! Julia! Trudy! They warned the two other drifters were after them. They brainwashed Jet and Faye. We got trouble! Big trouble! Jet and Faye got caught! It was a trap! What did you say? The mob was leaning on them, leaving them no time for an explanation. They retreated with zealots chasing after them. Spike stopped and faced the humongous mob. Come at me, you bastards! What? Hey! This isn't a fight we can win here. We must go. Spike punched around the swordfish, lifting it off the ground after yanking off the fuel pump. Tried to catch his breath as the other crafts followed with no particular destination. The bot eventually scanned the product and he spoke over the comm that inside were chemicals killing brain cells more rapidly than alcohol. The women told the boys they noticed a food stand located a foot away from the lot. The guys found a presentation about the mystical settlement. Trudy's mind was still fixed on one glaring issue. Jet and Faye got caught. We gotta retrieve them! Now! If we re- if we return to Thorsis, we're sitting ducks. Damn it! Spike! Trudy wasn't feeling any better as she was starting to lose hope. The drifters already manipulated all of Mars, and Jet and Faye were in the middle of it. Spike, we need you for this. Zero was the one not being scourged. He even heard him voice his defeat that they would be next. Oh no, we're not. The drifters didn't get us yet. It seems they're using our weaknesses and exploiting them to take advantage of us. We must get Jet and Faye back. Swordfish soon came across an old barn of sorts and left the formation. Spike, where are you going? I believe I found something, Zero. I need to take a look. You guys cover for me. He went up without any care to see if there were any pursuing zealots. Spike investigated the dead field. After a few moments of searching, he went inside the rusty door, looked up and noticed a large broken gap through the roof, almost as if fire or rather exhaust has escaped. He knelt down and touched a finger toward the enormous scars some humongous circular vessel left. This must have costed a hell of a fistful of oolongs. Through the lighting from the roof, despite some fallen debris, he found a poster of sorts displaying the bliss unstained within the resort of Empyrea. Then something struck his interest. In his anger, he ripped the thing to shreds. With a shaking fist, I will never, never let them get away with this! He hurried out and fired up the zip craft. By the time he met up with the shuttle and the Hearthstone, he concluded that the drifters, the two bounty heads, and Jet and Faye would be taken to somewhere at the edge of the universe. Then he recognized a blurred, distorted image of Pluto and its neighboring moon, Charon, as he looked at the poster from Empyrea. To Pluto! Good eye, Spike! There was no master, only Takeshi and Lin planning this. They're manipulating our money and property to make this bullshit journey. Don't you see? They're running the planet and soon the whole galaxy dry. Just before the dust storm, the time when us Martians would be the most vulnerable. And they already took over Venus. We have to take them by force. Even though it's stealing, they were willing to surrender their wills anyway. But first we need to go through the asteroid belt. Julia, you stay behind me with Zero. No way! I'm coming with you, Spike. And for once, I actually developed a plan. Everyone was flabbergasted. Spike briefly paused. Yeah, that does sound like a plan. Let's do it. He held on to the helm so tightly that his knuckles turned white. He shot several of them apart, including using the fatal plasma beam cannon from the swordfish. Later took the hyperspace gate at Jupiter to Pluto, knowing the hammer-headed redtail could be on their sixes. He arrived at the dwarf planet Pluto just about to enter the Kuiper Belt. It was said that it housed numerous ice bodies as this region was still being formulated by the start of the Big Bang. They got there first, excepting for Zero. They landed their vehicles just a few yards away and saw the captors working tirelessly at the surface, which seemed to be encased in oxygen. They came across Takeshi, then Lin meeting up with him outside a large complex. Lines of people from Venus and Mars were just slaving away, collecting rock and ice particles, without even straining or caring for their own welfare. Literally hyper-focused on the so-called master and at times worshipping him. Hey, where's Zero? His spacecraft must have been slower than the other zip crafts. His shuttle is more primitive, after all, since it was made from Earth. I'm sure he'll catch up to us eventually. I think it's about time we blow this thing. This damn joint. Get everyone and their stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam! Loaded his Jericho and headed toward the base with the women by his suit ties. Meanwhile, the quartet saw the group head into their stronghold. They have come. Only there are 3, Spike, Julia, and Trudy. We know how to deal with them. Yes. The first thing we must do to convert them is clip Spike's wings before he soars too high. They depend on him. When one domino falls, so do the others. He has to be demoralized. Guns were drawn. They saw Ling naked to the third base, showing off her irresistible body against the fluorescent lights, shining on her. The women grew more worried of Spike's changing demeanor, even though the young cowgirl kept looking away, particularly Trudy. Raised a hand to keep them back, and he slowly went closer to her. She began to ogle him as he looked her over, front, sides, and back, top and bottom. It seems you are being aroused by me. Glad you would be able to join us, Spike. I guess the master is considered to be both you and Takeshi, but I would be a part of the drifters as long as I am by your side. I wouldn't want anything more, even if we were to go even well beyond this universe. I would be more than happy to. Not! Trudy immediately did a roundhouse kick toward Lynn's shin, forcing her off the ledge. They were ambushed by zealots and they fought them off. That was until a shot rang out from behind. Faye made her entry holding her Glock 30 toward the resistors. Faye! What are you doing? Drop your weapons! Or, drop your weapons! It was Jet. He was holding the wealthier P99. They all submitted as they were surrounded by the 2 bounty heads, Faye and Jet, and more followers. I couldn't believe what was happening to them. Jet! You can't be serious! You won't convert us all! Faye, what is happening to you? Come on, Zero, hurry! She twirled her Glock around her fingers. Don't you know? We have become their special bodyguards. Lynn stood up and she sneered as she stood next to her lover. Indeed we are. We have heard about Empyrea personally. Instead of spending an eternity laboring on a Pluto and sacrificing our life savings, they had offered us an extraordinary opportunity. We were looking forward to seeing their savior. This is ridiculous. You guys know there's no savior here. You two were being set up, knowing damn well we were the galaxy's best bounty hunters. Takeshi and Lin knew about the Bebop and the Red Dragons because you told them. It was just a way to force us into submission. Oh, we're just getting started. Since my charm wasn't enough for you, Spike, I'd rather have her out of the equation. Julia was held hostage toward a stasis tube where the air was being sucked out of the vacuum while it was reaching temperatures as frigid as the vast reaches of space. Spike! He looked up and saw her helpless state. Julia! He countered the men, but Jen was even quicker. Don't worry about me, Spike! You have to save the galaxy! Plasma shot exploded inside, and through the smoke it turned out to be Zero with the Z-Buster. He soon reached her, punched and shattered the glass, took her out, and laid her down. Spike recklessly knocked the bounty heads and some of the zealots out of with raw anger and desperation, hoping to get to Julia, while Trudy did the same. He soon did, and seeing her pale face perform mouth-to-mouth while encouraging her to breathe. She let out some coughs after a few intense moments. Then the facility was about to explode from the Maverick's impact. Spike and Zero dragged out the unconscious terrorists thanks to some backup from extraterrestrials that returned to their senses. Some even held Jet and Faye at gunpoint. There was a blinding light from above in contrast with the opaque sky. At first glance, the group thought it belonged to the so-called holy master of theirs, but it turned out to be coming from a familiar large mothership. Inside was a pilot clad in this. He had a mask, turned out to be the space samurai former cowboy Andy Von de Oneyate, taking away their bounty via tractor beam. Looks like I got your loot for once. Thanks for clearing the way for me. Man, you dirty dog. Son of a bitch stole our bounty! Typical cowboy. The facility continued to demolish itself. Damage was spreading. Everyone evacuate! Go back to your home planets! Everyone scurried to their own corresponding spacecraft, yet the stubborn cowboy actually went back while the crew was also running. Spike! Oh no! What are you doing? Spike! The smoke was getting thicker, cutting off his breathing and vision. The heat was rising and the building collapsed. Despite the crumbling drug lord's base, he managed to punch around the computer and anxiously waited for all the billions of oolongs to be downloaded onto the flash drive he saw earlier, sticking out like a sore thumb. By the time it reached 100%, the facility was trapping him in. The onlookers were in utter shock as Spike never exited to safety while the entire hideout was blown into space dust, including the gigantic vessel. Spike! Within a shockwave, the entire place was completely destroyed with absolutely no chance of survivors. His beloved then sank to her knees and cried while Zero did his best to comfort her and Trudy. The rest of them just stood in still silence. What was that thing Spike went for? Just then the bot detected movement. He ran toward the edge just beneath him by a few miles. The cocky bounty hunter narrowly escaped with his life in his spacesuit. Zero! I couldn't use your lift right about now. I see him! It's Spike! He's alive! He almost instantly obliged, and everyone was so relieved he survived the unsurmountable. With jetpacks beneath his feet, Zero brought Spike up. He was instantly caught in Julia's loving embrace. Despite the tight bear hug, he drew out the flash drive from a pocket. It was tempting, but the team unanimously decided to donate all the money and the owner's equity back as anonymous. They headed back to Mars in silence, well, mostly Jet and Faye. A Born to be Alive was blasting within the swordfish. Trudy commented he should be a baritone, since the chorus reminded her of him singing that. He did try, and both women giggled at his silly attempt. Somewhere within the expanding Martian desert, Jet and Faye were talking amongst themselves. He activated his comm via Hammerhead. Hold up, everyone. What's up, Jet? After a brief pause, Spike urged him to speak. He said there was a confession to make. The Zipcrafts in the shuttle landed upon his orders. All right, spill the beans, old-timer. You said so yourself. You two volunteered as bodyguards for those bastards. What's going on? They looked toward each other before they explained that they were actually acting instead of really being influenced by the drifters. Zero wasn't, since he's a robot. We were only pretending in fear of losing everything. I'm so sorry, you guys. Looking at the somber expressions made Trudy lose it. She punched Faye to the ground and glared at Jet, ready to destroy him. Julie and Spike held her back during her rage, telling her it was enough. From the sudden impact, Faye just got the wind knocked out of her, even some internal bleeding. Jet just stood there, even when she continued to rave with all her angst. You've done this on purpose! You had this coming! I'm sick of all these betrayals! She referred to the time when she had to confront Spike, infected by Vicious. I looked up to you guys, and I was just opening up to you! She ran toward Jet and Faye. We did all this to save your pathetic asses! If you hadn't betrayed us, we would have stood a chance! I'm no longer supporting you guys again! She stormed away. Trudy. Feeling her pain and agony, she wanted to go after her, but Spike held her back, thinking she should calm down. It's how do you say, her faith is shaking? Very good. That's exactly how she feels, Zero. A couple days had passed and Julia would never stop worrying of Trudy. nor her dwindling hopes on finding her before the dust storm would hit. Spike and Zero volunteered to use their crafts to look for her, while they reluctantly accepted Jet's and Faye's offer as well. Said it won't be easy since he knows of the canyon's expanding and empty environment, not to mention the infinite number of craters located throughout. Spike, Julia, and Zero were the most persistent, searching for any signs all day and all night, while occasionally stopping for fuel. One day during the early morning, despite Mars having shorter days than on Earth, Spike found a little campsite complete with a bonfire and tent. He certainly was the most confident since he recalled Trudy as a survivor living in the slums. Thinking he'd find some intel, he landed his swordfish a few feet away. He began to investigate the campground and noticed a figure emerging from a large steep crater. She was actually readjusting her pants. Trudy! Spike? Where have you been? We were all worried sick about you, especially Julia. I'm sorry, Spike. I never wanted to go back after Jet and Faye's betrayals. I can't trust them again. Why did you come here? Do I really need a reason to help someone? That warmed her heart as he recalled the same phrases she uses whenever he was in a bind, including those times with Vicious. Swimming bird. Turns out she came across Laughing Bull. He took her in at her most vulnerable state. During the last 2 days, trying to convince her to return to Tharsis to Swimming Bird and Hearthstone before the dust storm, and also try to reconcile with Rolling Rock and Redtail. His son and his wolf were also nice company. He knew that deep down the wandering star would look into her heart, reminiscing on all the things they've done, and forgive them while rekindling her trust and friendship for them, while also enduring the pangs from her deep hatred and betrayal like any adult would. The swordfish, she never wanted Spike and Julia to worry. She promises to try again when the storm passes over. But until Trudy is willing to talk to them, only time will tell. Some of the names for the new bounty heads were made up, but others, such as Lynn and Lucero, not to mention their age, were references to that rotten succubus Mary Joy G38. It was meant to be a sort of cyber insult to her and her pathetic mockery of all the F-Zero characters she created. I, for once, am being really dark, as I feel I should actually plagiarize a plagiarist. Ha 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 ha! I definitely want the worst to happen to that monkey. That song by Patrick Hernandez really does get me going, especially after hearing it from Vegas Vacation. I always fantasized that Spike would sing these lines during the chorus. Too bad we never heard him sing at all, despite those other times when he was actually jamming. Should also actually start feeling as if he is alive, rather than just living in a dream. Andy, as we know, has debuted in Cowboy Funk as a sort of eccentric rival to Spike in terms of combat and bounty hunting, so I decided to throw him in for lulz. And Takeshi's image was an inspiration from one of the members of the Wing Kong and Big Trouble in Little China, in case you may not know. Not sure if you'd noticed, but some of the betrayal was based off of the Garlic Jr. saga in Dragon Ball Z, specifically to Krillin and Piccolo's betrayals. I'm surprised Gohan still trusts them after all the beatings and misery he had to go through, since they were pretending to be influenced by an outside force. Seriously, wouldn't anyone be pissed if their friend or mentor happens to just betray those they look up to? I hated it! Another story done. Maybe the next one would involve Spike and Zero having a confrontation with one another. A sort of love triangle over Julia, but we'll see. So until then, see ya, Space Cowboy. Until then, this is the Ecron Writer signing out. So before I go, hopefully I won't get into any more trouble as I do this song for Mega Man X. And also, this could be my last project before my own hiatus. What is it exactly, and why is that? Well, I'll explain later. Until then, this is the Ecron Writer signing out.